Hi, my name is Andy Godwin. I'm a fourth year senior here at University of Nebraska, majoring in business management. Um, so the first question asks us to describe three important um, or ins- or surprising ideas that we found in the book. Act like a leader, think like a leader. The first one I found that I thought was important was about conventional wisdom. It was about changing your behavior and how it won't get you very far using the conventional wisdom. The book states that your current way of thinking about a job is and about yourself is what is exactly what's keeping you from stepping up. Ibarra says to first change your mind, you must first change your behavior, and that change happens from the outside in and not the inside out. The logical sequence of think then act is actually reversed when you're trying to change your personal behavior, and in that process, when you're trying to become a leader. So this idea seemed important to me because it tells you that conventional wisdom of changing the way you behave is wrong, and you must first try something, observe the results, assess how others feel about it, and and then internalize your experience. In other words, you must first attempt to act like a leader in order to think like a leader. Hence the text. The second idea I found that was important was avoiding the competency trap. This idea explains that professionals will often um, practice stuff they're good at too often at the expense of not, sharpening their tools that they're not very good at. Um, the idea notions that they overinvest into their strengths under the false assumption um, that what produced their past success you know, will lead to future gains, and this isn't true. And this can lead us into bad habits, bad routines that no longer correspond to the requirements of the ever-changing work environment. I thought this idea was interesting because I am an avid golfer, and like all year round, I'll work on my golf game, do the same routine at the practice range, and sometimes I'll lose focus on some of the small ideas or some of the small details um, that are that I need to small details that need to be taken into account each time I step up and swing the club, whether it's wind direction, ball, like the lie of the ball, or the club selection. This can cause bad habits and inconsistencies um, in my swing, which will lead to poor scores. A way I could get rid of this is sometimes when I step on the practice range, do change the routine a little bit, make myself uncomfortable. So when I get into the situations on the golf course, um, I won't feel as surprised or like, whoa, I've never felt different like this before. And it might put me in a better position to perform well. The third idea I found important was networking across and out. The idea talks about acting as a bridge between your current work environment and your organization. Lateral and vertical relationships with other people outside your immediate control are a critical lifeline for figuring out how our contributions fit into the overall picture and how to sell our ideas, learn about relevant trends, and compete for resources ultimately. I found this idea interesting because it basically tells us, it tells you that only in relation to people doing these things can we understand the importance and the value of like what they're doing. This idea helps us create networks with others that have done our job, others that have worked with people that have done our job also, and and it'll help us learn, grow, and advance from their advice, their feedback, their coaching. It also helps to have like a point of reference when you're not sure exactly what you're doing or where you're going. An idea in the book that I disagree with was finding a project outside your area. The book kind of talks about taking on different projects within the company that aren't exactly in your expertise level, like in order to increase your leadership skills. I don't disagree with taking on more work. I think it's a good idea, but sometimes, like from my experience, I found it best to focus on the that's like at hand. Your main focus should be your task and your role. Sometimes you can lose sight of your role if you take on too much and that doesn't pertain to your specific role. Though it is nice to learn different processes at work, I found it best to first master that initial task, then ask for more. And this will allow you to like strategically vision how different roles and tasks like integrate and kind of correlate and lead to the next. Um, the next one, example of me being a chameleon. Okay, so a couple summers ago, I got my first job as an assistant pro at a golf course. I had heard that from other employees, well, this being a very nice, it's a country club, and they have a lot of wealthy, rich people, and very powerful people as well. And I'd heard from other employees that a lot of these members are snobs, rich snobs that don't, they're self-centered, only care about themselves, don't really care too much about you, and all this. And it worried me because those kind of people, to me, I sometimes act a certain way, ignore them or shake them off or say something smart alecky. And you can't do that as an assistant pro. As assistant pro, my job was to converse with these members, take them out golfing, and all this stuff. So I was really worried at the start and didn't know how to act. I watched my my boss, the professional, the head pro there. He kind of watched him, how he conversed, how he acted around them, and learned from him a lot on how to be polite. Kind of when to say something, when to smile. Because these are some of the naughtiest people you'll ever meet. You had to learn how to be sincere with each answer or each word you said. It had to be believable. You couldn't be, sarcastic. They didn't like sarcastic. I'm sarcastic, but anyways, by the end of the summer, I had made great relationships with many of the members, and it wasn't too bad. Example, when I was a true selfer. When I came back to school 2 summers ago, our teacher gave this big spiel in the first class about, organizing your work schedule, and organizing, like, detail-oriented, when you should do work on what class and all this stuff, and it was super detailed, and I was like, blah, blah, blah. I thought it was all garbage, He said this would all, like, doing this process by, like, mapping the whole semester out would raise each grade by a whole letter. Whatever. And I didn't believe him, so I was a true selfer. I stuck to the ways I'd done in previous semesters where I just, kind of got by. I did well, but, not great, and just kind of held stuff to the last minute. Didn't really plan it out, So the semester, the end of the semester rolled around, and grades were okay. They were just okay. And, I kind of internalized the semester, like, some of the grades I got and what I could have done better, and I realized I could have, if I would have set schedules every single day. You got to be really disciplined to do it, but set schedules every day for this. I probably would have got assignments done earlier, maybe had more time for other social activities, and probably would have got better grades and done better work because I had that set time every day to really focus on that one thing rather than just holding it at the end. But for me, I think my personality is more of a hybrid. I found myself able to easily adapt to almost all situations. I will stay true to myself though, and like I won't compromise my morals or my virtues, my beliefs for certain things though. And though I see myself as a hybrid, I view myself to perform like way better when I'm more chameleon-like because it makes me indisposable. And such, I like to be good at a lot of things rather than being like great at one thing, and acting only one way is I rather get along with multiple people. Not worry about it. Anyways, I do believe leaders need to be chameleons because the world is forever changing, and so are the people in it. As a leader, you have many different people looking up to you for guidance, for answers, and they could have different values, morals, aspirations, motives, all that, than you. And in order to lead a group of people, you need to find a way to bring all these people together who have all these different ideas and values and morals, and you got to bring them together to be focused on one common goal and complete that common goal. I really don't think there's an exception to this because when you lead, if you're a true selfer and you only stick to your ideas and your values and you won't listen to other people, it could lead to poor performance for your group or your team that you're leading, and you could be viewed as a poor leader. So that's wrong. 3 types of networks. Which type of network do I think is most important for me to focus on? Why? I think the most important type of network for me to focus on is strategic networking. I believe this is most important because it is made up of relationships that help you envision the future, sell your ideas, get information and resources you need to exploit these ideas as well. And basically it is a type of networking that helps you most when you're trying to complete goals or aspirations. This type of network gives you a connected advantage and is not so much about one-on-one relationships as it is about how the relationships intersect. Some of the major challenges of building a strategic network is the investment of your time into outside activities, and it also requires a lot of attention and to operational demands, and is both internal and external, medium and long range when you're looking at like location and time frame for those relationships. Last question. A leader I look up to is Phil Jackson. I've read all his books. He's the current general manager of the New York Knicks, if you didn't know. He's coached Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. Great leader. He's probably one of the best leaders of all time when it comes to sports, hands down. What makes him a great leader, is his ability to communicate with each person individually by coming down to their level and allowing them to be themselves in order to perform to like their maximum effort. He's coached many great NBA players, like I said, over the years, and each with the ego the size of Texas, just massive. But in a symbiotic fashion, he has brought them all together as a unit, to reach one common goal, and that's 10 NBA championships, 3 back-to-back-to-backs, which is incredible. Never been done before. But networking played a big role in his leadership journey. He's created networks across the league with influential players, coaches, which allowed him to take ideas and advice and experiences from each and integrate them into a group of men to reach a common goal. And I believe Phil was more of a chameleon because he was able to adapt to the changing NBA. Like, he was there for 20 years, and with players being traded, coaches being fired, or released, or leaving for a different job, I believe this chameleon-like attitude he had was important because he had to learn how to adapt and use all the resources around him to his best ability. And like, he could not only lead, but he taught players about basketball and life, and how to love each other. And his teaching methods didn't just make a great team, but taught players how to come together as a cohesive unit and perform to their best abilities each night. And his leadership style is noted as widely praised and is still used by some of the great leaders in today's world, outside of basketball. And that's it. Thank you.